you're not a mind reader, but do you have any idea?
How do you know that?
Can you talk about your impression of Obama's Middle Eastern policy? That's one question.
Okay.
And the other thing that I would like to ask you about is how do you understand what happened in Libya and what's going on in Afghanistan?
Wow.
So maybe stick to the first question.
Okay, well, with regard to, I mean, again, we're here to talk really about anti-Semitism in the Middle East, so it's not quite relevant. Let me just briefly say the following. I do think, without wishing to take sides on the U.S. presidential election, I do think that the current president has not succeeded in understanding the core dynamics of how things work in the Middle East. I understand what he was trying to do. I think what the president thought he was going to do when he came into office was to try to repair the terrible damage, as he saw it, which the previous administration had done in terms of America's image in the Middle East. The problem is that he went about it, in my estimation at least, quite in the wrong way. Because what he thought was that if you express empathy for people and if you express understanding for their culture and their traditions and so on, which is a nice thing in general to do, but he thought if you do that, this will produce political results. It'll produce the increasing value, so to speak, of America's image and American strategic coin in the region. And so he went to Cairo in 2009 and he gave that speech in which, by the way, people will remember he insisted on Muslim Brotherhood people being in the front row and committed, in my opinion, a grave error. He then compounded this, in my estimation, by failing to back and being seen to fail to back long-standing American allies in the Middle East. Ben Ali in Tunisia, Mubarak in Egypt. He then compounded that failure by failing to confront long-standing American enemies in the Middle East. Assad, Syria, the Iran of the Ayatollahs, and so on and so forth. What this comes down to, in my view, is the following conceptual failure. He thought that what you need to do with enemies in the Middle East is to make them like you, and what you need to do with friends in the Middle East is, well, that's less important. They'll just be your friends anyway. It doesn't work that way. What you need to do in the Middle East is make sure that your friends know they can rely on you, and make sure your enemies know that they should fear you. This president, in my estimation at least, has failed to do both. The actions of the United States in the region of the last 4 years have produced the following situation. America's traditional friends are either no longer in power, some of them are in jail, or they're in power and very scared and very worried. America's traditional enemies, on the other hand, are looking at their strategic backer, the Iranians or the Russians, and saying, boy, thank God I chose the right side. Thank God I chose the right patron. I, Bashar Assad, so to speak, Bashar Assad, if I'd chosen the wrong patron, I'd now be either in the good outcome in jail, or in the bad outcome 6 foot under the ground, like Gaddafi. But I'm still there, and why am I still there? Because my backers, Russia and Iran, are backing me all the way. In other words, the actions of this administration, in my estimation, in the Middle East, have resulted in a serious devaluation of American strategic coin in the region, a serious devaluation of the value of the Americans as a patron. And whoever it is that comes into power or continues being in power after the elections in November will be faced, first and foremost in the Middle East, I wish to suggest, with the task of rebuilding that strategic coin, making America once more, a solid backer to its friends and an enemy to be considered, to its enemies. A situation which does not currently exist. And we probably don't have time, so I'll be happy afterwards to talk about Libya and Afghanistan if you'd like me to ask about that. Maybe one more question.